Baggage unattended on the station.
Welcome to the show.
It goes pink.
And we're live. Welcome back to another Grill Sports Off Field. I'm your host, Liv Moods, joined by BK on the end there, hanging out, and Nate Jackson in the how.
Hey.
Yeah, we're back. No Frappuccino in hand for BK.
No, we do have a couple of moves coming in, or at least one. First Broncos move I've seen.
Wow.
Well, two. Trenton Gill, a couple about 30 minutes ago, and now Philip Dorsett. No surprises, but Trenton Gill, the other punter, Riley Dixon's been doing this a long time, and Trenton Gill, I'm trying to see, they waived Art Green a little earlier as well, so not that big of a surprise. He's injured right now.
Yeah,
so.
We're entering the era of cuts, and I wanna toss to you. I want to also, after we hear from Nate, I want to play the clip of head coach Sean Payton talking about this time of year and how difficult it is. And Nate, you've been on a team before. It's tough because I'm sure at this point they've built not just chemistry as a team, but also friendships.
Yeah. And
you know that cuts are coming. It's just the nature of the game. What does this time of the year feel like? Does it feel like a little bit of a dark cloud?
It's tough because, you know, the game yesterday, not everybody suited up, right?
Right. That was tough.
So a lot of guys are told the night before the game or 2 days before or even 3, you're not playing in the game, which means in their minds, I'm safe. And a couple of those guys may not be safe. And that's the biggest brain fuck of all is when
if they didn't play and they're not safe, it's a little
that
alarming.
happened to my buddy Kyle Johnson. He was told you're safe. He thought obviously I'm a starter. They're resting me for the first game. And then he got the call today and got cut. So, but most of those guys who didn't suit up are safe.
Yeah.
They're starters. I think there was 28 or something like that.
Yeah.
BK. But the rest of the guys who were out there on the field yesterday, they're all looking at their phones today. And they go home after, and, you know, Sean Payton tells them, look, have your phone near you. You know, we might be calling you. And so they're ready to get called and be given some good news or bad news. No call is the best news.
You don't want your phone to ring.
Right. No call is the best news. It means you made the team. A call doesn't mean, though, that you're not going to be around. You could be released and then signed to the practice squad. There's going to be 16 guys on the practice squad. But they might pull some guys from other teams on practice squad. You never know how they're going to assemble that. But it's nerve-wracking. You've, you know, put in all the work off season. There's been 90 guys in that room the whole time.
Yep.
And now they're going to cut it down to 53 plus the 16 practice squads. But 20-plus guys are getting cut and not coming back. And so you lay it on the line. It might be your last time you ever play the game of football. And that game yesterday might have been their last time they ever put on pads. And so it's hard to like think about the end like that. You know, you're not going to go home and think, oh, that was it. It's over, because you made it this far and your agent's going to tell you, well, keep training, keep going. It's going to, you know, someone could call. And so but
as you know, the game can pass you by very quickly. We've talked about that on this show with different players that have been injured and tried to come back. It's probably not as easy as I'll just stay fit and stay ready and a team will call and I'll feel good. It's mentally, I'm sure, very draining.
Which is incredible what Tim Patrick is doing, because he really hasn't played for 2 years. And he, you know, has he made the team? Not yet. We'll see.
Right.
Like, that could be a surprise.
Yeah.
Because everyone's thinking like Timmy, he played himself back in. Well, we don't know.
We don't know until you know. And so the quarterbacks talked yesterday. Sean Payton, you and I were in there for Sean's press conference. Yeah. And we'll get to this. But when Zach Wilson, I don't know if we have this video necessarily, but he was asked, hey, Sean just said it looks like all 3 quarterbacks are going to, like, that's his expectation.
Yeah.
Zach's like, well, we'll see. and less about, I think part of it is a sensitivity to the rest of the room that guys that think they're going to make it. You never know until you know, unless you're Pat Surtain, guys like that. And so while he believes it, when he'll see it, maybe he thinks, oh, they still might trade me, right? Or something, or they might do something with Stiddy. So it's nice to hear that today. Talk to me on Tuesday, or really talk to me on the Wednesday before the Seattle game when the rosters, I don't say are locked, but if you're on that Wednesday 53, then you're paid for the week.
Yeah.
And if you're a vet like Zach Wilson or Stidham, and I don't know if it counts because he's still under it, you're guaranteed for the year. So Stidham or a Samaj P. Ryan or someone like that, anyone that's a vested veteran, which Zach isn't, if you're on the roster on the Wednesday, they have to pay you for the year, even if they cut you before the game on Sunday.
Yeah.
Interesting with the quarterbacks, though. I was just thinking about this. The 2 backups, I mean, if they keep all 3, the 2 backups have had actual starts in the NFL, and the starter has not. and he's the rookie. But Zach Wilson has 33, and Jarrett Stidham has 4. But I think that's a very rare situation to have.
I agree, because I think you have usually your vet, your Jarrett Stidham type, or Chase Daniel. Well, Chase Daniel didn't have a lot of starts, but it's guys that started a lot in their career. You look at, and I think I brought this up, how Jordan Palmer has relayed to Patrick Mahomes that he always wants to have a veteran backup. And it went from being Matt Moore, who started in the playoffs for the Chiefs. It was Chad Henne, who started a bunch of games for the Jags, and now Blaine Gabbert, first round pick, started a bunch of games.
He's still there, Blaine Gabbert?
I think he's their guy this year.
Blaine.
There's Carson Wentz, who was an MVP candidate and has, without even counting, I'm sure 40 plus starts in the league.
Yeah.
You don't meet a lot of Blaines in the world.
I like that.
Well,
name.
but so Jarrett has a chance to maybe be Todd Collins or Chase Daniel, a guy that plays 15 years.
BK's like, anyway.
I'm trying to make a point.
There's been some Blaines.
Name another Blaine.
Blaine Bishop played safety for the Titans for a decade.
Oh, yeah, Blaine.
Blaine's
Blaine.
The blonde,
How can we forget?
the
Blaine.
blonde dude photographer Blaine, who's like he's Justin Simmons and a bunch of other players. Personal photographer. I saw him at the game.
Is that right?
Yeah, it's 2 Blaines that I know.
Blaine's everywhere.
Wow.
David Blaine.
Leave it to BK.
Yeah.
Look, and he didn't need his phone for that one.
No.
Yeah.
He came off the top of the dome with that one.
But to your point about just the uneasiness and Hard Knocks, a lot of people have been down on this year's, and I've only watched an episode and a half of the Bears. They've captured it from the get-go how grueling that can be in a world,
especially with the Giants. They showcased a
sure,
lot of that.
in a world with 16 practice squad spots. So it is better than it was when you played, because when you played, it was it up to 10, even was it 8?
No, it started with 5.
So was it 5?
And then it went to 8. Yeah.
I wonder, because we saw the rule change today where the PA basically voted against elevating. If you have a bona fide quarterback, so let's just say it's Jarrett Stidham, he gets cut. He's like, nope, I'm going to be the Broncos practice squad quarterback. You could elevate him every week and it wouldn't count against the 53. That's what they had voted on in March, the owners' meetings. The PA actually voted against that. And I think it's just that they want their players to be getting a full salary, because you're capped. I actually found this out yesterday. You're capped at like $365 on the practice squad. And even if you
$365,000
for the year,
that's way more than I made.
Hell yeah, it is.
We made
Look
like
how much gas is.
grand.
How much is Taco Bell though? Inflation, dude.
We made like 90 grand.
90?
Yeah.
Okay.
BK said, let's talk about Taco Bell.
But then it was 180 and now, but it's not
43.50 a week is what we made.
But if you
really,
yeah,
what a disgrace.
But
I mean, it's not bad. But these guys are making 4 times that.
Okay, comparatively, though,
That's
I mean that's crazy.
But
That is very different.
If you get elevated, even if you get elevated, so you're, let's call it little Jordan Humphrey, and you're making the max 365, because they can only give you so much, and they can't even give you bonuses. They can do that when you're drafted. So you get elevated for that week, you get a full game check based on whatever your tier is. So if you're Latavius Murray, who got a couple of years ago elevated in the, but that week he's elevated from the practice squad, he's making whatever the minimum. So if it's $1 million, $2 million, $5 million based on his years, he gets that check, 1/17 of that, which is gonna be way more than 20 grand. So anyway, you could the idea was you could do it with the quarterback, unlimited all year, but they were still practice squad quarterbacks. The PA is basically saying, no, you're not going to screw quarterbacks like that. If you need a third quarterback, they've got to be on your 53.
Yeah, because quarterbacks are always getting screwed, man. This game's so mean to quarterbacks, isn't it?
I'm not in charge of the PA. I'm just relaying.
No, I think the really interesting decision is about whether to keep 2 or 3 of these guys, because the roster spots are very important right now, and you're not going to play 3 quarterbacks in a game. You know, you're not going to play 2 quarterbacks in a game usually, unless one gets hurt. But can you keep one of those guys on the practice squad? Probably not, right? Like.
Well, Stidham, you could if he gets to decide where he wants to go, right? So you can put Stidham on the practice squad. He wouldn't want to
leave though if he gets.
You would think he'd be like, let me just go to Green Bay. They probably need me more than that. Arizona probably needs me more. With apologies to Clayton Tune and Desmond Ritter.
Clayton Tune could move a little bit, though.
A little bit.
He's a pretty good athlete.
Desmond Ritter looks like he
was singing a pretty nice tune. I was out there watching him. I was field leveled down there because I'm the uniform inspector.
Yeah, did you guys know that?
Did you guys know that?
If you didn't, now you do.
Sock police. Here.
Sock police.
That's what they call me.
Pull
your socks up, man. I'm going to mark you down. Okay.
That's 2 strikes, buddy.
Actually, I don't even tell them. I just mark it down and send it away to the league, and they can decide whether or not to.
Is it egregious?
Yeah. I know.
Hey, your knee pad. Wear your knee pads. That's gotta be the toughest to look for knee pads.
Well, no, you can see knee pads. What they do is they pull it up to their leg. They don't have it over the knee, and so that's supposed to be a violation. You're supposed to pull it down over your knee, but they don't have it over in the knee. They have it here, and a lot of guys let the skin show down here, and the sock goes down, and they're just like all exposed. And I got to mark them down.
I understand that padding, even though technology's gotten better, it still doesn't really protect. If you take a helmet on your knee,
well, It
and
takes
you
it for like a
but
bruise,
it's
a bone bruise, it'll help
for
a little
sure,
bit.
for
But
sure.
like a torn ligament,
No,
it's
if
not gonna
someone's
stop
helmet's
that.
hitting you here, that's not stopping anything. But it
Heck
could even
no.
lessen the bruise if it hits you square. If it hits you square, but it's not going to destroy your knee.
Yep.
Yeah, that bruise won't be as bad. But Chris Carter, I feel like, was at least the most popular. I can't say he's the first guy to take his leg pads, thigh pads, and his knee pads out.
Yeah,
but
you can't do that anymore. Though.
Yeah, you can't.
They don't let you.
Yeah,
do
they
it.
don't find that cute or cool.
No.
We were talking a little bit about the quarterbacks, and I know that we've got some clips queued up that we can play in regards to what the quarterbacks had to say about Bo being the starter, their position on the 53-man roster. I will say, if you didn't know background on what the quarterback situation looks like and the quarterback competition looks like here in Denver, we got two very, very different responses. We only have a clip of Stidham's response, but Zach Wilson felt like he was very much a good sport, very much in support of Bo, but also seemed to be pretty proud of what he was able to bring in yesterday's preseason game because he did look really great. And Stidham had a little bit of a different reaction, and not saying that one is more right than the other, but I will say, if you were just looking at those two clips, to me, one emulated a little bit more camaraderie, a little bit more leadership than the other. But I do think it's also worth mentioning. I'm not sure if you guys remember this, but Zach Wilson at one point had a pretty bad moment in a post-game presser. I don't know if you guys remember this.
Sure.
He was not a good sport. People did not take lightly what he said and how he said it. His delivery was poor. So I also just want to give a shout out to Zach Wilson because I think he's grown a lot over the last few years, the last couple years. So that was exciting to see. But we don't have Zach Wilson's clip of him being a really great sport and super supportive of Bo. But we do have Jarrett's in regards to kind of how he's feeling about his position on the 53-man roster. So let's check that out.
Obviously, I was very disappointed. I know I'm a starting quarterback in this league. I have zero doubts about that. And, it just didn't shake out my way. But I know what kind of player I am, kind of person I am. And like I said earlier, I'll be ready to go if I need to be. And, like I said, I have no doubts that I'm a starting caliber quarterback in this league.
What are your thoughts, gentlemen?
Didn't shake out. You got beat out. Okay. So
Right.
stop talking about it shaking. You got beat out.
Nothing was shook.
You didn't really do anything to separate yourself from these guys. Jarrett came in as the veteran who started the previous, couple games for the Broncos, was the incumbent leader. He had everybody to his place in Texas. He knows the system better than all these guys, and they played better than him. I mean, I actually think Zach Wilson played better than him as well. And so, you know what kind of person you are, you know what kind of player you are. I appreciate the confidence because, you do want to be confident. Every guy in the NFL should believe that he's a starter, right? But at the same time, be humble when it shakes out that way, right? Because you did get beat out, and now you got to stand behind this guy and be, a good leader.
Be confident, but also be realistic. That's my big thing. And I'm not denying that he doesn't truly believe that he is of the caliber of being a starting quarterback in this league. But like you said, we've now seen 3 preseason games where it wasn't just a shakeout. It wasn't just this is how it all trickled down. It's like, no, this is how it ended up because they played better than you did, or Sean Payton preferred. There's been weeks now of us watching these quarterbacks, watching this competition unfold, whether it be in training camps, in practices, in preseason. So yeah, I just think him and Zach had very different responses. Zach felt very much like he was in super support of Bo while also feeling good about what he was able to do in the preseason and in training camp and what have you. But BK, what are your thoughts about I know you were there, so you got to hear kind of all the different angles and all that.
I shot that
stuff.
video.
Yeah, I know you did.
I was right there. But I don't have a problem with how he said that. And I think that there's still the timing of, okay, it's only a couple days. And I actually reached out to somebody in the building. I was like, because he's being painted as a malcontent. I said, think that he's disappointed. He thought he had a shot. You come in behind Tom Brady, you know what time it is there. Then you're in Vegas behind Derek Carr. You understand that. You come here now, Sean. I'm sure the reason that he came here, they gave him $10 million was, we want you to back up Russ. If it doesn't go the way everybody would like, or if we're not, heading in the right direction, we think you'd be great to perhaps take over for Russ and then have a chance beyond that if we draft a rookie, whatever. And so I imagine that's how it was sold to him, and then that's how it played out. And so I don't think he's denying the idea that Bo Nix was going to be the starter at some point. But I imagine he's gone through the spring and summer thinking, I'm definitely going to start, and they're going to have to kick me off the field because I'm going to play well enough. And at some point, they're going to have to get to Bo Nix, and I'll go start somewhere else. And again, this is just me surmising this. I haven't talked to him, so I think it's just getting over that. But I don't know, even if he's been grumpy in the building, a malcontent is hard to understand in a world where they're not game planning and they're not into a weekly routine. If they show up, even this week, but especially next Wednesday to work, or Tuesday when quarterbacks go in, and Bo and Zach are at the front of the room and Jared's just in the back on his phone, or less engaged, less involved, less being who he is, because I think he's the guy that his teammates really like, then that's a problem. But if he's just right now still just disappointed that the competition, we say, didn't go his way, that he got beaten out, I think that's okay. Especially because earlier, and I think we can get to this clip too, we don't have to tee it up just yet, but I asked him about being a backup in that role. But
and before we get into that, you know, he's facing some adversity now that he hasn't on this team, right? He's a leader because he was the starter, right? And he was the cool one next to Russell Wilson, who was a freaking dork. And it was like, God, we wish our quarterback was cool like you, Jarrett. And so when Russell left, he's like, the cool guy's here. What's up? Let's do this. And then he came into camp and literally didn't play as well as the rookie. The rookie played better than Jarrett. And so he has to accept that. And what BK was saying about, you know, he thought that I'll start for a while until Bo. Well, if you don't think, like, he should think I'm going to start forever. They're never going to start Bo Nix because I'm going to play so much better than him.
Having a trade.
Because if I do play well, if he has confidence in what he's doing, he's not going to get replaced, right? He believes he's going to go in and lead us to the fucking Super Bowl. And so how do you replace me after that? But the fact is he hasn't played as well. And he lacks, to me, and I'm not trying to be critical, but he lacks a sort of extra, like the intangible the quarterback has that makes you believe in him. The magic on the field. I haven't seen that from Jarrett. And he had a couple chances last year to do it, and he didn't really. And he's had a couple chances here, and it hasn't really happened. And so I think you got to go with a guy that makes you feel special, you know? Bo Nix.
Little mojo in the bojo.
Right.
Did we say that's not the order we should do it?
I wouldn't say it like that.
But Bojo,
I have like an NSFW kind of a Bo Nix thing. Not safe for work.
Right with Bo leaving.
Well, it's a boner.
You have a boner.
There you go. Bo Nix creating mile-high boners all over the place. That's the new one.
That's why his name was spelled B-E-A-U. You could have a lot more fun with it because it's just spelled the way you'd spell boner. Like you could still capitalize the B, but
I got a boner, which is B-O.
Yeah,
whatever.
It's fine. It works.
Yeah, that's good stuff. That is.
I get, and look, again, I said I was just trying to get inside Jared's
head. I'm with you. I'm
but
with you.
You might be right too, where he's like, I'm going to be the starter here, and they're going to have to trade their first round pick. Either
that's
way,
what you should think, right?
Right. I don't have a problem with anything he said there, though, because that's one clip, and I get that it's at the very end, and that was the last thing he said. And I'm like, okay, but he's saying, I think I'm a starting caliber quarterback in the league. He didn't come out and say, I'm better than Bo Nix. I should be the starter. The coaches are crazy.
Well,
or
no, but I think people are
comparing.
Yeah, he did. And I think people right now are comparing the difference between what he said and what Zach Wilson said. Now, is that fair? No, because out of context, and like you said, there was a whole interview. We're only seeing one little bit of it, but he also knows how the media works. That's the last thing he said. That's the last impression you put on people. If anything, start with that sentiment, and then you talk about, hey, I believe that I am one of the best. This is what I think I bring to the table, blah, blah, blah. I'm excited for Bo, but here's where I'm at. He ended with that, and then compare that to what Zach Wilson said, and that's when it feels kind of like, okay,
because that
felt a little negative.
Off the top, he was asked about just, not going your way. And he's like, and I can look up the comments or we can pull him at some point, but he could have introduced that there. Like, yeah, it's disappointing. I think I'm starting. Like, there's obviously a way to say it. There was we did just play the clip. I don't think there was an overemphasis. Like, hey, I'm a starting quarterback in this league. He said, I think I'm a starting caliber quarterback. And I'm okay with him saying that.
Yeah.
Because he's not saying, I thought I won the job or I thought I played better.
Well, he said he was extremely frustrated about the way it shook out.
Yeah.
And he sees
Nate's
himself,
not like that word choice.
Well, it's just it basically says that he just got unlucky. Like it was like, oh, they drew straws and I didn't get it.
And
That's what it sounds like to me when you say
agree.
it's just the
I
way
agree.
it
because
shakes out.
he could have thrown the ball down the field a whole lot more than he did.
Because he doesn't possess the ability to.
Agreed.
the way
But I'm
Zach
saying
does.
he could have won the job,
Right.
and he didn't go out and it wasn't like so when Trevor Siemian beat out Paxton Lynch and Mark Sanchez for that matter, I know with a million intangibles. It was so obvious that you would have had a revolt in the locker room because Trevor was throwing the ball down the field. He was running the offense the best. It was sort of new to everyone, even though Paxton had been there the year before. Or no, I guess Paxton was a rookie. Trevor had been there the year before.
Yeah.
So it wasn't new to him. So Trevor knew the offense, knew what Cougs wanted. It was going to be a little different than what they did with Peyton, and knew the guys, but played the best. And so then you would have had a problem. Like, you know what? Paxton's our first round pick. He's going to be the starter. That would have been obvious. This was not that. This was the opposite. Bo Nix outplayed him. Zach Wilson, even if he was in phase 3 his entire time, except for a little bit yesterday, I guess they pulled some of those guys, he still outplayed him because he just had more time and made more plays.
Well, Zach Wilson in practice was kind of pushed to the side a little bit. They were letting Jarrett and Bo
After
battle it out.
2 days, like
Yeah.
day 3, Zach, you've got the threes now, dude.
Yeah, they let Jarrett and Bo battle it out. And I think, a little bit of a, caveat here because Jarrett Stidham and Zach Wilson are in very different positions.
Right.
Zach Wilson arrived here dead in the water, right? An outcast and things
12
did not
and
go
21, I think, was the record as a starter in the NFL.
Yeah, and he things didn't go well. He was dragged behind the freaking bus there, and they he was left for dead. And
But
so
he does have $35 million. I'm not trying to
no.
minimize
But
that,
let me
I'm
make
saying
a point though,
sorry.
because he was very grateful to be in this position.
Yes.
And so it's easy for him to be deferential and just like, I'm happy to be here, guys.
Right.
Because where I was before, it was fucking awful.
Right.
Whereas Jarrett, you mentioned it, started in New England behind Tom Brady, went to the Raiders, blah, blah, blah. And now he finally sees his opportunity to grab fate by the freaking ears and whatever the fuck.
That's the same.
He finally sees the
Remixed.
opportunity to seize his opportunity.
Do you think there was a little bit of entitlement? He felt not that he felt entitled to the job here, but he felt like he's paid his dues. He's been behind the right
piece of that. A little
He's
piece of
a
that.
veteran.
A little piece of that is the way he reveled in sort of and that's fine. When as a veteran, I fucked with the rookies too and made them carry pads and made them get food and stuff. But he stood up there in front of the media and really talked about how he was making Bo do all the shit that rookies do. And that's fine. You should. But he clearly relished the position he was in of having earned this spot. He was the starter last year, and he was holding on to it, and he lost control of it. And he doesn't have anyone to blame for that. He really doesn't. Bo outplayed him, and so did Zach when he really got the opportunity to do it. Zach Wilson can press the ball down the field in a way that Jarrett Stidham can't. And he has more experience, and he has more composure. He can make more things happen with his legs. And like I talked about before, the magic that quarterbacks possess that make us fall in love with them and make them do special shit on the field, he lacks, in my opinion. And despite how much he's loved in the locker room, despite how much guys want to get behind him and want him around on the field, what I've seen is that these other two quarterbacks are better.
I agree.
We spend a lot of time talking about the top quarterbacks in the league in those tiers, right?
Yeah.
But even the guys that are in those middle tiers, like there's not anybody in the Cowboys locker room, even though Trey Lance was taken 3rd and Dak Prescott went in the 4th round, that is walking around thinking that Dak doesn't have that Trey Lance clearly has never demonstrated because he played at a small school. COVID took part of his last year. All of that, played 1 game that year, and his NFL career has been almost nothing. So even if Dak isn't on the Patrick Mahomes level, but the guys that when you have your guy, and you had it with Snake, right? Nobody, I'm not saying Jake didn't think this, but Jake may have not been a top 5 or top 8 quarterback because Peyton and Tom and those guys are all in the hall or were in there too at the same time. But you still knew every Sunday he's going to give us a great chance to win. He's got that it factor that Stidham maybe has never really shown, because at Auburn he was all right. At Baylor he had 1, I think, good year statistically, got hurt, then ends up at Auburn. And then he comes in behind Tom Brady. And it's not the same as Brady coming in behind Bledsoe. Bledsoe had been paid really well and had gone to a Super Bowl, but hadn't won anything. Tom Brady had 6 rings or 5 rings, whatever it was, 6 when Stidham showed up. So it's different. Russell Wilson, and he thought this is finally my chance. No Derek Carr, no, this is my chance. And it still didn't materialize, again, because he didn't play well enough. But I think that we have to give this a few weeks. And I believe Sean Payton when he says we're likely going to keep 3, because I said that the other day, then I checked with some people, and it sounds like that's the way they're going to go.
Yeah.
But that's why I did want to get to the other clip that has been not glossed over, but not even really mentioned because it's so easy to focus on.
Right, because when
clip.
you end with the negative,
Sure.
that's all people remember.
Absolutely.
He should know better as a veteran in this league.
So
dealing with media.
This, Jay, do we have the question too? Because I'm the one that asked the question or just the answer. It's fine. So I asked, hey, you've been behind Tom Brady, Derek Carr, and Russell Wilson as a young guy. He's younger than all those guys. Now you become the vet. Do we not have that? Okay, we don't have that. It was the fourth answer in where he said, yeah, I've learned from the best to ever do it. And I was like, Russell Wilson's the best ever. No, I was kidding. Derek Carr. And so he's like, and so whatever I can do to help Bo. So I'm paraphrasing. So
well, the thing
I guess
is,
you got to give me a thumbs up,
that
Jay, if we have it.
We gotta like these guys who are so technical and have been around and know how to tell you what to do and know all the and they've
don't
seen
talk about it, be about it.
There's an element of that where it's like, man, that's not what it takes to win on Sundays. We can watch all the film we possibly can. You can tell me how Tom did it. You can tell me how he looked this guy off and did this and who saw this. But really, it takes an instinct of a player to go in the moment and win these games when they matter.
Mm-hmm.
And Jarrett cannot teach anyone how to do that. He can teach them about the plays and tell them and help the receivers line up where they're supposed to line up and be that kind of a guy. But do they need that kind of a guy? I
think Jarrett Stidham is a lead by voice, not by example type of quarterback, where I think he maybe says all the right things and can articulate through words what needs to be done, and here's how we do it, and I'm the veteran, and this is, assuming that leadership position, which is not a bad thing. I think that every quarterback group, and especially when you've got three, somebody's got to step up and be the leader, and I think Jarrett can do that. Verbally, I don't believe that Jarrett Stidham is the type of quarterback that can lead by example. If you have a rookie that's coming in that you're trying to shape, hey, watch what he does, this is what we need from you, I don't know if Jarrett can be that type of leader for this quarterback group.
But maybe it's kind of a combination of things. So it goes back to what I was saying about a young, talented guy still having a vet behind them that's at least been through the meetings and seen the way other guys do it. But then by keeping Zach Wilson around, you also have a guy that was a very high draft pick, number 2 in the draft, thrown into the fire, a shit show in New York year after year after year. Then he was finally going to get a chance to take a back seat, not that he volunteered for it, but Aaron Rodgers shows up. So you can see how Aaron Rodgers does stuff. But now you have a guy that if he and Bo connect, and who knows to what level they're friends, but
they're the same age.
They're certainly the same age,
yeah.
and have the same reference. I mean, Stidham's only a couple years older, so it's not like he's 35 or older, but he can say, yeah, my first start, or however he wants to get into it. Yeah, I remember when I was a rookie and we started out poorly because the Jets weren't good at all when he was there, right? 12 wins in his 33 starts and not a lot of wins around it. But Zach can relate to, oh, I did this wrong, or maybe you want to try this. And even still, he hasn't had the success, but he can just say, hey, these are the mistakes I made. You may want to avoid these. And you got to remember
also, Sean Payton, Johnny Moe, Joe Lombardi,
and now Davis Webb.
Davis especially. I mean, they got so many fucking coaches to help these guys do exactly what we're talking about here. Understand where to go with the ball, understand what the coverages are, understand the situations. Sean Payton's got way more experience than Jarrett Stidham does in these situations, and he has a vested interest in making sure Bo Nix learns this stuff. So
did Jarrett Stidham maybe take on Big Brother role a little too? Did he take that job maybe a little more serious than the quarterback position?
I think that he was forced into a leadership position with the vacuum and the weirdness of Russell Wilson, and I think he handled it the right way. I think what he tried to do was like we said, seize fate by the ears,
grab him by the ears,
shake him in the moment, but be a leader in that locker room when there was none.
Yeah,
your quarterback should be theoretically a leader, and when Russell Wilson leaves the building, there's such a big vacuum, and then Jarrett said, I'll be that guy, and I did learn from Tom Brady on how to do that, and I did learn from Derek Carr how to do that, and I saw everything Russell did poorly, and so I'm going to do it the opposite way here with this group of guys I've been watching, and learning from, and so that part of it I think he's done very well, but I just think that the on the field stuff, clearly very early on in camp, Bo cemented himself as the better quarterback.
Yeah.
And now in the games and the opportunities that are situational and not just scripted practices, it's become even more clear. Yep. And then when you give Zach Wilson the actual chance to do it, he even becomes a more dynamic quarterback than Jarrett Stidham. And so to me, it's obvious that Jarrett is the third best of those three. The question is, do you want him around or not after you tell him that you're not as good as these other two guys?
Right
Now.
He's
It
gotta
didn't take
understand
them
that.
2 years to do this. Right now, they're better. How are you going to handle that, Jarrett? That's a conversation that Sean Payton's going to have with him and decide whether or not he wants him around.
Especially because all those coaches you mentioned, and we kind of touched on Davis Webb. Davis is essentially the same age as Jarrett. Maybe he's a year or two older, but not by much. And he also has never really had any success. He knew he wanted to be a coach his whole life. That's why he has every game plan from high school and would take Daniel Jones to the indoor on Fridays and walk through the game plan with them so the coaches were hands off. Well, now Davis is the quarterback's coach. Right. He is the quarterback's coach. But you still have
game plan since high school,
yeah,
Davis?
Yeah, you still have Pete Carmichael in there. You have obviously Joe Lombardi. You have Johnny Moe. You have all these guys. So they can still feel more like coaches, and Davis can feel more like the vet that's just not dressed on game day. And even if they don't, because they don't have to declare it. If they're going to dress all of them, they don't have the depth chart can say Bo Nix 1, and then it can say Jarrett Stidham or Zach Wilson. That way they can decide if they needed to play them in a game. They can put them in whatever order they want. They don't have to declare.
But that's dangerous, though. Just you're talking about week to week. One guy will be the two,
but I'm saying Sean can say that without saying it on the depth chart. Like Sean will know, and those guys may know, and it may not say it on the depth.
It should be clear right off the bat.
But just by Zach staying around, that's enough of them saying, "Well, Zach outplayed you because he's here. If not, you could handle all the other stuff. Like we believe in you as the player as well as the mentor. Versus, hey, we like some of your stuff." We think you can do the mentor part really well. You could, in my mind, and because Sean was around him for a long time, you could be a Chase Daniel type. But Zach Wilson could end up being a starter. He could be the guy like Teddy Bridgewater who comes in for Drew Brees, the former #1 draft pick, and wins 5 games and goes 5-0 when Drew Brees is hurt.
You mentioned Chase Daniel, right? Did you ever see Chase Daniel at the end of camp say I should be a starter in this league?
Not once.
He didn't do that. So Jarrett's going to have to take a step back and assess where he's at.
Self-reflection.
And it's a humbling experience. Like quarterback is a very unique position. There's only one guy that plays, right? Receivers, there's multiple guys playing. Offensive line, there's 5 on the field at one time. Defensive linemen, they're rotating them. DBs, like there's special teams for position players. But for a quarterback, there's only one guy. And unless he gets hurt, you ain't going in there. And so you got to step back. Once you lose the job, which he has, and he did last week, take a fucking step back and accept it, and don't talk about how you believe you're a starter.
Because that's not what we saw.
You do.
We didn't
all
see
believe
that.
You know what I'm saying? Like, but you just got beat out, and only one guy can play. And if you're a leader on this team, then we got to all rally behind the guy who is playing.
And that's what Zach did that Jarrett didn't.
Okay.
And that's.
But here's what Jarrett said when I asked him about now, because I kind of prefaced it right.
BK's playing devil's advocate.
You've been around these. Well, you can watch and listen to what he said. Again, it was, I don't say undone, but followed by, I think I'm a starting caliber quarterback. But I'm going to read the first part because we only have the second part of the quote. But he says, I have a very unique perspective playing behind, in my opinion, most people's opinion, the best quarterback to play, and seeing what he did day in, day out, and being able to relate some of that and being around behind good players. Then he says this.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I'm going to do whatever I can to help Bo get prepared. Obviously he's never had a real season like this in the NFL. So, I'm going to help him in whatever way I can, and then also be ready to go if I need to be. So, just ready for the season to get here and get started.
You asked that question.
Yeah, let's dissect that. Let's dissect that.
No, I'm just doing a little psychoanalysis there. But he's saying, obviously, I'm going to do everything I can to help Bo. Obviously, why is it obvious? But I'm not saying, look, Jarrett, he was saying all the right things right there. Sometimes at the end of an interview, you say something that you really mean when
drunk words or sober thoughts.
When your
that's what it
guard
reminds me
is
of.
let down, right at the very end,
and they say last question. So
they'll take that, and that'll be the one that comes to the front and that everybody hears. Not all the coach speak and the cliches that you give at the beginning. Obviously, I'm going to be. Why is it obvious? Okay, but because you're a professional, I get that, and so you are going to do everything that you can, but will your spirit and your heart be in the right place when it comes to this? That's what they have to assess really with this disappointment, because he believed it was his job. He got blindsided by it. He was the only one who got blindsided by it. Everyone else saw this coming, and accept Jarrett Stidham.
And I think that's my problem. That's like my only issue. And again, BK, you make a lot of really great points about the fact that that was only one clip of the interview, and he said a lot of things, and he did express that he's going to help Bo any way that he can. But I think that because he chose to end the interview with I believe I'm a starting, I'm at the same caliber of the starting quarterbacks that are in this league. To me, that's pretty irrelevant information at this point. We've now watched training camps, we've watched practices, we've watched preseason games. What you think of yourself from a talent perspective is irrelevant. You did not get the starting quarterback job. Bo did, and Zach Wilson outplayed you. So to me, it was just one of those tidbits where I felt like it was just unnecessary information that at the end of the day just made people look at him sideways a little bit. I don't think it was necessary information, but I get it. I'm again, I've never played in the NFL. Nate, you have. You've got to be confident to play this game. You've got to believe in yourself.
Absolutely. I believe that I should have been a starter every year I played. I believe that if you had thrown me the ball every play, we would win the Super Bowl every year, and I'd be in the fucking Hall of Fame. Just throw me why aren't they throwing me the ball? Because I catch it every time. So why are you guys not throwing me the fuck? I thought that every day.
Of course.
But it's not how it goes, because everybody wants the ball. Everybody wants to be the man. Everybody was the man in high school and college. You get to the NFL, things are different. The guys playing special teams right now, did they go to the NFL envisioning they're going to be core special teams players? No.
Doubted.
They believed they were starters because they were in college. So every single guy expected a larger role than they have. Everyone, except for Cortland Sutton and who else? No one else.
PS2.
Right, PS2, but everyone else is taking a lesser role than they expected of themselves. So Jarrett is not alone there. What's different is that he's handling it a little bit salty, and he needs to, and he's probably has talked to his agent already, and he's probably talked to some people and simmered down a little bit, and he's going to come into work and be ready to go. But my question is, is Sean Payton going to want that sort of energy in that room? And I think that's a serious question they're debating. I know he really likes him because he brought him here.
They've spent a lot of time around him, right? Especially Davis and Joe Lombardi, now Pete Carmichael, but Johnny Moe. So those guys were around Jarrett all year last year, and now through this entire offseason. And Jarrett's the one that every time in his press conference talks about how different this team is. He even talked about it yesterday. So I just pulled up the quote sheet with the questions. First two questions are about football, like the game, the rhythm and plays. Then he was asked about receiving a lot of reps. Fine. Then I asked, somebody asked about him being improved. Then I asked about being a veteran, like where he's improved, about being a veteran, health assistant, whatever. Then asked if he's always been supportive of whatever is best for the team. And he said, yes, for sure. 91 guys in the locker room, because I forget they have that international player. We're all going for a common goal. But then he talked about this team being different and talked about the pick six and how nuts everybody went.
Yeah.
And he said that over and over, that this team is different.
Yeah.
And so he's been the guy, but he also didn't get to pick the order of the questions. The last question that was asked to him was, what was his reaction to Bo Nix being named starter? If he'd been asked that first, then maybe he answers it like that, and who knows how the rest of it goes. But he didn't get to pick who asked him the questions, or when it's final, the PR staff kind of handles that. I suppose you could say, no, I'll take him more. He's not going to do that though. So but he's the one that's been ringing the bell about this team's different. Offensive guys hang out with defensive guys, all of that. We just like being around each other. He now needs to remember that, and we'll see. I just think that because those guys have been around him so much, I imagine, and that's why at least the one text I got was, he's disappointed. Give him a couple of days. If we find out that he's just being a dick starting next week when they get back from Labor Day, then they have to reassess, and they'll have until Wednesday to decide, because I think that's when they have to decide. If they cut him before Wednesday, they don't own the $4 million that or $6, whatever it is. But if they keep him, then they have to pay him all the way through. So they have a little bit of time to decide: is Jarrett just a little salty, or is he going to be a true malcontent?
I don't think he would
be a detriment. I don't think he will be.
No, I don't. Yeah, that clip didn't make me think he's going to be a sour Sally and ruin the culture that Sean Payton has spent so much time building and.
Or like Joe Flacco, who said, "I'm not here to Drew Lock."
Yeah,
because he wasn't.
Well, he was a D-bag for that
Aaron
one.
Rodgers, right?
Yeah,
but
I don't think that about Jarrett Stidham. I just think that, again, kind of the whole encompassing, I think, thing that I took away from that little clip. Again, I know one of many things that he said, but what I took away from that one is same thing that Nate said. Ultimately, you lost the job. His tone felt like when he was saying that it just. that they all had really close stats and they looked very similar throughout the last 3 weeks. And this is just how it ended up. It's like, well, that's not how it ended up. It just, you got outplayed and that's just that. So I think he knows that. I don't think that he's going to go in there and ruin the culture and be, you know, Mr. Grumpy Gills, but I'm sure he's disappointed. I'm sure he's frustrated. He just needs to make sure that those stay within himself because that's really the only person he can be upset with right now. Because at the end of the day, Sean Payton.
But even if that's the case, because we didn't spend enough time getting into it, the psychology of it, I'm really disappointed. And he may just be mad at himself or disappointed that he didn't do enough to win the job. And we take it as, oh, I'm disappointed at the decision they made, which may not be what he's saying.
I don't think that's what he said, Brandon. I think because he said, you know, I know what kind of player I am. I know what kind of guy I am.
Okay.
You know, I think what he was saying is that he thinks he deserves to be the starter.
Okay.
That's what I took from it.
Okay. I was standing there in the moment. I didn't take that. I thought he's saying I'm better than because it's not that he's better than Bo Nix. He's saying I think I'm one of the 32 best quarterbacks on the planet right now. And thinking about other situations, I think that played into it as much as anything else.
Which again, I love the confidence, but the confidence has to be realistic.
But is he better than Daniel Jones? I don't know. I mean, Daniel Jones has shown some flashes here and there.
I think Jared at this point is still too unproven to think that way of himself.
Maybe so. But I mean,
that's just how I feel.
Drew Lock's hurt. They're about to sign Tommy DeVito. If I'm Jarrett Stidham, I'm like, hey, call the Giants and get them to trade a 7th for me. So
fair.
But then, you know, you keep 3 and then instead of it affects your roster. So you keep one fewer player in a different position group that you're having a difficult time cutting down, like the receivers, for example. You know, what are you going to do at receiver?
Let's talk about that because I think we can wrap with that. And then we obviously have another episode this week and we've got a little break before week 1 in the NFL really starts. But I do think I'll let you start with that. I think we should talk about the wide receiver group because I think that was one of the more interesting storylines as we were watching through training camp and practices and what have you. So what's your opinion now? Who are we rocking with? Who should we rock with?
Portland, obviously.
Duh.
Obvi.
Obvi. Oh my gosh. Okay.
Oh my gosh.
Mr. Trendy.
All right. Josh Reynolds, is that Obvi?
I just think because of the money they paid him, they didn't pay him as much as Brandon Jones. And Brandon Jones is going to be fine, but Josh Reynolds we at least saw make some plays. We never saw anything of Brandon Jones, but he's making $7 million a year, 3 year, $20 million versus 2 years, 7. So maybe Josh Reynolds isn't obvious, and maybe
right. That's what I'm thinking about.
But maybe Tim Patrick. To me, Tim Patrick is obvious.
I agree. That might be my hot take is that I feel like Tim Patrick is obvious. But again, a lot of
people... crazy is that from one, you know, you were out at every practice, right?
Yeah.
Did he have good practices?
Who's that?
Tim.
Yeah, when they threw him the ball, he caught it just like all the time.
Yeah.
Same with Josh Reynolds. Most of the time, though, felt like when he was out there, and he hasn't been out there lately, he caught the ball most of the time. I mean, he had one on Bo Nix, one of his best early throws right over Jaquan McMillan.
With Tim Patrick, I also think about the impact he has in the locker room and to the culture and to the leadership and to all that. So I'm thinking on like multiple levels here. But to me, Tim Patrick is definitely one that I think you would lose more if you got rid of him than.
Yeah, well, he is a little cheaper. I don't know how much. I mean, Josh may have already gotten his guaranteed money. I mean, it's 2 years, $7 million.
And when you look at the NFL now and the way defenses play offenses, they keep everything in front of them. They want to go make tackles. They don't really let anything behind them. And therefore, the kind of receivers that are valuable are guys who understand zones, who are sure-handed, who have a wide catch radius, who are smart, tough, can block in the running game, and can make those tough catches where there are tiny windows. He's not looking for speed burners. What he's looking for is tall, long receivers who have sure hands and are smart. And that's Tim Patrick, and that is Josh Reynolds to an extent. But then, you look at the back end of the receiver room, those guys, it's not all going to be guys who are just good at catching the ball, which is important though. But special teams players, do you care about, like Marvin Mims is going to make the team, right? Even though he hasn't done anything for me. On offense. And so what's his role going to be? Exactly.
Franklin, they finally threw him the ball. He finally did something with it a little bit yesterday, but I just don't think they want to cut a guy that they think is the second rounder.
And then LJ Humphrey, who didn't suit up yesterday, made the team last year, played really well last year.
Well, made the team after making the practice squad. They may be like, hey man, we're doing the same thing again, dude. Just deal with it.
Devon Bailey. What do you do with Devon Bailey?
I think he's on the roster.
I think so too.
Because I just don't think there's enough buzz out there, even though he only played in the Colts preseason game. Anybody that's come here has talked about him, and everybody, and so they talked about him on the broadcast, and I just don't think they can sneak.
Does he play on Sundays?
No, I think Lil Jordan Humphrey might play ahead of him in Seattle.
Right.
It would be crazy, right? Vele's now Lil Jordan gets the full salary for that week, but the Lil Jordan you trust more and can use more in the offense and on special teams than you will with Vele. But I think with Vele, you just want the chance to see what he can become.
Mm-hmm.
And if in case something happens to Tim Patrick or Josh Reynolds or Cortland Sutton, all Tim Patrick, Cortland Sutton have pretty extensive injury histories.
Yeah.
And so. And it doesn't even really matter. Everybody's going to get hurt at some point. There's going to be an injury in the receiver room. However, the Broncos were the healthiest team in the NFL last year.
Right? They're really healthy right now.
They're really healthy right now. So whatever they're doing is working. Whatever supplement they're giving the guys is really working right now. So keep on doing that. But no, that's they've had.
I think Sutton.
Yeah.
Patrick and Reynolds are like my 3
locks.
Right now.
Marvin
You can put Marvin Mims
I
on
think
there.
Mims,
You're not cutting a Pro Bowl
Vele,
return.
and Franklin would be my next.
Those
3.
are the 6 I put, which means David Stills, who can just re-sign to the practice squad because he's a vested veteran. Jalen Virgil, who's not, and
what
maybe
about Brandon Johnson balling yesterday?
Brandon Johnson is not going to clear waivers.
No.
If they put Brandon Johnson on waivers, which I think they might, he's not going to clear waivers. I guess the question is the little bit you've seen from Vele, who's bigger than Brandon. I mean, Brandon Johnson's what, 6'2.5". All he does is find the end zone. His first catch as a rookie, he had a great camp, then he gets hurt at the end of his rookie camp. They finally get him active and all that. His first catch is a touchdown and gets called back. The next week, his first catch is a touchdown. Last year, he's second on the team with 4 touchdowns. He just finds the end zone.
Yeah.
He'd been really quiet all camp. He hadn't had any bad drops. He's just kind of been out there, catches the ball and thrown to him, makes a block. They'd love to have him around, but would you rather have somebody that's that reliable when you have a bunch of reliable vets, or the upside of what you think Vele and certainly what Franklin might be versus we know what Brandon Johnson is? He's kind of a lighter version of Reynolds and Patrick.
That's why like maybe there's a Reynolds or Patrick cut that could be very surprising,
Which one do you think it's going to be?
For the
if you
future.
say Patrick, I'll swing.
I would say Reynolds because he kind of like, Tim Patrick is that locker room guy.
Yeah, he's important.
And Josh Reynolds, like there are guys who could play pretty much as well as Josh Reynolds. Did Josh Reynolds do anything spectacular? I would say no. And if you're playing for the future and you already got Cortland Sutton and Tim Patrick who are very similar size and type of players as Josh Reynolds, do you want some younger guys who can do some different things and are maybe have a bigger upside? And although Josh Reynolds had a pretty productive year last year and has bounced around, he's a veteran. He's made a good impression, but has he made a stronger impression than the other young bucks? This is a tough choice to make. So what do you see him keeping 6? How many on the practice squad, Brandon?
At least receivers. 3. I think you are keeping Bandy. Like you said, I think like Phil Dorsett got let go. And I think part of that is, hey, see if someone else wants you or even wants to talk to you about practice squad, because we're going to put Bandy on our practice squad.
Bandy's like the hard-working dude who can play the slot.
And it will be your punt returner on practice. He'll do all that stuff, right? Yeah. So the Bandy, I think you're keeping Jalen Virgil if you can. They seem to like Sills and Lil Jordan Humphrey. So I think you're keeping those 4 as it stands right now, unless there's a surprise. You cut Josh Reynolds, I don't know if you're bringing him back right away to your practice squad.
Right.
I'm not saying you won't, but it might be one of those where he's going to look around and say, is there a 53 that needs me?
Yeah.
If not, let's talk in a couple of weeks or whatever.
And then there's also, this is very unlikely.
If I'm missing anybody.
This is very unlikely, but Sean Payton talks about other rosters. They have eyes on all 31 other teams. There's players out there that if they were to get cut, they would pick them up. I don't think that would happen for the receivers just because there's so much depth. They like them a lot. But there are a couple positions out there where if there's a guy on the streets that they like, they could bring him in.
Could be something.
Yeah, but what position would that be, Brandon?
DB for sure, because even though you like what you have, I think inside linebacker. Although, assuming they've seen enough, they have with Alex, obviously, with Singleton, but between Barton and Griffith, and they know what they have with Sternad. Yeah, he's a good backup, and he is a true core special teamer.
Sternad was balling yesterday, too.
And when he's had to play because of injuries, he's played fine, but then he's got hurt a couple times too, that a wrist thing and all that.
How has Cody Barton looked to you?
He seems to be around the ball, but you can tell that he's limited athletically compared to Jonas or even Sternad. So Alex Singleton's faster, I think, than people think. He's not necessarily the best in coverage, but not terrible. Cody Barton reminds me a lot of Josie Jewell. But Josie played for so long and had been the guy, and won the job really right away, I guess, in year 2 when he knocked out Davis, whatever that was. But even though slow, he's had such good football instincts that he was always around the ball. We need to see more of Cody Barton, and we haven't in the 5 years in the pros and in the couple months he's been here. So I think linebacker, I think O-line for sure, because you get past your top 5. We haven't talked about Quinn Bailey enough, because why would you, right? Nobody thinks about a guy that's only got a couple starts, but has played in 30 games and can play all 4 spots other than center.
Right.
So you could dress him and feel good about him at either tackle spot or either guard spot. They don't have any. Like, they're trying to get Palczewski to do that. They played at guard yesterday. That dude's enormous. He's only played tackle in the pros, really. And then you're talking about Forsyth being really versatile. It feels like Wattenberg's one job at center. Mustapher had a really good day yesterday, according to PFF. But I think if there's a veteran O-lineman or somebody that played for the Saints that's available, it won't surprise me. But I do think they're going to, because of the 3 receivers, going to carry 8 O-linemen to start and have a couple of those guys on practice squad.
Yeah. A
lot Can you think of a position that if somebody hits the street or a position hits that you're like, oh, the Broncos could
I would say offensive lineman. There's depth.
Yeah.
O-line. No starter. I mean, not a starter.
There's going to be a good D lineman cut tomorrow. It's either going to be today or tomorrow. It's either going to be D'Angelo Blackston or Matt Henningsen, probably, because I think they like Innie's upside so much athletically, and you can just tell that there's enough raw athleticism, raw clay that they want to try to mold it. And you know about the top 4 guys, right? I guess the surprise cut could be DJ Jones, but I don't see that at all. Well, I'm just thinking of where you could actually save money.
Yeah.
Although Sean Payton, both with Dave Logan post game and then in his press conference, said, we don't take money into account when we're building our 53. Because at this point, your salary is kind of set. Now, yes, if you were to cut Cortland Sutton, you'd save $10-15 million. You cut Garrett Bowles, you cut DJ Jones on his $10 million. But they wouldn't make those cuts to save the money. It'd be because they like the other guys around them better. Yeah.
What about running back?
It feels like
Samaje Perine pretty much.
I feel like we're going to get that news here if we haven't already.
Yeah.
That we're going to get
Williams comeback year.
Yeah.
Comeback season.
No doubt.
But also Jaleel McLaughlin going to go off.
I do think so.
Okay, here we go. 5 minutes ago. Never mind.
What happened?
Ian Rappaport took care of it for us. Broncos expected to release Samaje Perine. That from Rap Sheet 5 minutes ago.
Bye, Perine.
I mean, we've been talking about this for months.
We have.
But the reason I put this out there today,
I don't think that's a huge shock.
But the reason I put this out there today versus tomorrow is now team call, because you don't have to put this in till tomorrow. So you let it be known. You let Ian and Adam and those guys know it's out there. And if I'm the Bengals, who I think could use him, there's a couple teams. Obviously, he spent all that time in Cincy.
Yeah,
they might call and say, no, we don't want him to hit the street. We like the number he's locked in at. We don't want to give him a 2-year deal. Here's a 7th rounder. Give us Perine. Done.
And he's one of those guys who didn't suit up. He was on the sideline, just like in his sweats. But he probably saw it coming at the same time.
And I think they did that to do right by him. They don't even to pick up a blitz and roll an ankle or whatever, or get blasted by some kid that falls into him.
Yeah.
So there you go. So your running back room, that feels like Blake Watson makes the team. But here's the real question: Nate Atkins and Michael Burton, do they both make the team? It feels like something has to give. And if I had
with the 3 quarterbacks and
it feels like Michael Burton may not. Atkins, because of the versatility, and he can play, and we've seen him play H-back, fullback, and we know he can play tight end.
But you look at this offense with Sean Payton, and he really likes that base offense with a fullback and a running back. And he doesn't, 10, 15 plays a game, but he really likes it because it sets up some stuff that he really likes to do. And it shows him what the defense does. Like, all the things that he does offensively happen for a reason, to let the defense, to soften up the defense and to make them show what they're going to do versus this or that. So if he plays a defense that can't handle a traditional base offense with a fullback, he wants to be able to do it. Mm-hmm. He wants to have all his tools in his tool belt. And so can Nate Atkins play that
belt
in his relative to carpentry and other home improvement projects?
I'll throw a name out there that I haven't heard anything on yet, but when it start talking about, again, surprise cuts, and I don't think Josh Reynolds is going to be one of those surprise cuts, but for all the hype, mostly generated by one person and then piled on by us around Lucas Kroll, we've seen plenty of inconsistency. And so if you're going to keep, you have with Troutman, absolutely, and which continues to be healthy, you also kind of like Campmore. So you think if we don't sneak Lucas Kroll on because someone wants to go sign him, we still have Campmore we can put on the practice squad, and Dulcich, Atkins, and Troutman. And those are our 3. Now, last year they had 4 tight ends because Dulcich was on the active roster and they had the big fella, Manhurts.
Yeah.
But Lucas Kroll's a name that I'll say it won't blow my mind if they release him. or
I'm with you.
waive him.
You know, he had a really good mini camp. That was before Dulcich was around.
Yeah.
And what it showed to me wasn't, you know, Lucas Kroll's a fantastic athlete, and maybe he'll catch on somewhere. Kind of like the Alberto phenomenon. You remember that?
Yeah.
But he's a long guy. He's athletic. He can run. He can catch. But his success in minicamp was a product of Sean Payton wanting to get the tight end involved in this offense, no matter who the fuck is out there. We're going to use the middle of the field. We're going to get our tight end to run down the field, and we're going to get our quarterback to throw it to him in ways that Russell didn't. Now they got a guy who's going to do what I say, throw it to the tight end running down the field. Greg Dulcich is probably the better option there. Now, you do like to have two guys, but you're right. I mean, that room, you know, when you got Adam Troutman, who's your every down tight end, what do you got?
No, I asked somebody in the building. They said you can't cut a guy who had the best spring on the team.
Oh, so
but I think I can't tell if there was facetiousness in that.
So Lucas Kroll can jump.
Lucas Kroll did what we just said.
Yeah.
I just can't. You can't always get tone in text, so I can't tell if that was sarcasm.
Unless you do like exclamation points and weird emojis.
Or like a laughing emoji.
Are you guys big emoji guys?
No.
I'll mostly.
I will not do it. I want my just words to be enough.
No, the tone can be misconstrued too often. So
then you go ha ha.
Now I use a lot of emojis.
LOL.
I'll throw the fingers crossed emoji because that's easier than typing fingers crossed. And it's in like one of the ones I use a lot. And if somebody has a droid, like, you know, people we don't like, Ruben,
he's on a nickname basis with the Android.
If Ruben has an Android phone or any other person, I'll send the thumbs up emoji because like putting a thumbs up on
universal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I'm saying versus if I hit it like you would on an iPhone where it goes on the message, it like it'll say BK sent a thumbs up.
Yeah. I got you.
Or I'll type out BK has sent a thumbs up just to and then I'll sometimes use some silly face emoji so that people know that I'm being facetious.
Silly.
I think I did with you the other day. Maybe.
Yeah. BK is a silly guy for sure.
That's what everybody says.
Super silly.
That's what everybody says. Okay, well we're wrapping up here because we do still have another episode, like I said, this week on Friday, 2 p.m. Mountain Time, same place here Friday. We'll break down more of the 53-man roster. We'll probably have more developments by then that we can talk about. But then the following week, we don't really have any football or anything. So maybe we can start diving into what does week 1 look like. Maybe we'll have some predictions for you, some bets.
We have a lot of
already
football,
have
actually.
a couple of anytime touchdown props that I'm looking at for week 1 based on what we saw in the preseason. Very excited, obviously, to get the real NFL. I say real. It's not like preseason's fake, but I'm excited to get week 1.
Oh, yeah.
Around the corner. It's almost here. And the Broncos are 3-0. As far as I'm concerned, I don't give a shit that it's preseason. The Broncos are 3-0.
If you're gonna keep scoring,
leave me alone. I'm excited. Let me live.
Yeah, they're scoring over 30 points a game.
And I
excitement.
may have bet it live in the game as they were driving down to score the second touchdown, and they covered the 11.5.
Also, shout out Zach Wilson using your legs, getting in the end zone. That was nice. I was pretty excited.
And the
about
one
that.
on first to get the first down.
Yeah.
Run.
Love to see it. Well, thank you guys so much for being here.
I did not see that. Okay.
Really? Told y'all,
All
man.
right. Well,
Told y'all.
Tim Patrick's gone.
Told y'all.
Don't
Let's
say
see.
stupid. Oh my God. What
Well,
the
let's see
hell?
who are we according to?
Is it a real? Is it?
Okay,
Cliff. Tim Patrick,
With
guys.
significant depth and talent at wide receiver, Broncos are
Told
moving
y'all.
on from popular veteran Tim Patrick per source.
Told y'all.
Are you effing serious?
Keeps going for another hour.
Oh my God, I'm upset.
I told you guys, man.
What the hell?
Well, that answers the Josh Reynolds question.
I know. And that's what's fucked up about this time of year. Are you okay? That's what's fucked up about this time of year, guys, because you have these feel-good moments. You have these feel-good moments,
is
like
horrible.
the first time he's gotten in the end zone in 1,000 days. And did you see how excited everyone
I think
was?
that I
for
think
Tim?
that means a little Jordan's making it, and they're not messing around with them on
Because exactly, dude. Because you need bodies on game day
He
who
was so
do more.
excited when he got in the end zone. It was
That's-
like a little kid on Christmas.
I don't think Tim Patrick's going to be out of work.
no,
It
he'll find
doesn't
it
matter.
too.
I want him here.
I get it. I get it. I get
I'm
it.
gonna let me just break the whole studio really quick.
And again, without knowing
Tim Patrick has been cut.
without knowing their approach to exactly how they're going to structure the practice squad, they've given him again $20 million over the last 2 years, and he hasn't been able to play. So I don't think they're opposed to the idea of maybe getting him on practice squad if he's open to it.
Hell no.
You don't want to keep Tim Patrick around?
He ain't gonna want to stay on
I
the
agree with
practice
that.
squad.
I agree. He's not going to want to. If there's a team that's going to sign him,
he's through so much.
I'm not
It
saying
sucks.
He's got to go.
Somebody
And
else
He's
is going to
gone,
want
just
you.
like
For him.
that.
For him,
Mid-show.
though. For him,
That's
he's got to
crazy.
go now.
That's
And
crazy.
he might catch on somewhere else. Like, think of the last couple of years that he's had. Just devastation. And now you get so excited again. Like, you're back. And no, you're not.
You know
You're
what
not
this
back. It's really fucked up.
and I get it because he did like you said he had injured seasons back. Like it was a feel good moment to see him in the end zone after 1,000+ days. It was a feel good moment, but to me, this honestly just confirms what we already knew was happening with this Sean Payton revamped Broncos team. Is that slowly but surely we are watching the era of the losing Broncos just go out one by one by one. And I'm not saying that's the reason that Tim Patrick got cut, but I do think it is worth noting that Sean Payton really has kind of gotten, aside from PS2, aside from Bowles, aside from Cortland Sutton, he really has hit the absolute refresh button on this Broncos team, because we've talked about before, the losing stench lingers. It does. And so I'm not saying that's the reason Tim Patrick got cut, but it is just reconfirmation that Sean Payton really is investing in younger guys and putting the Broncos through an entire rebrand, which is not a bad thing. We've needed a rebrand for over a decade, but it's a little sad when you lose your players that you've loved.
So
you know?
two things going on right now. Same thing we just had this conversation with Samaje Perine. You let it get out there that you're going to move on from Tim Patrick. I know Zach Azani, who's now with the Steelers, and we know that they were looking.
Worst wide receiver coach in the NFL.
They were looking to upgrade. And look, Tim Patrick's not Brandon Ayuk, but they obviously had the Ayuk framework deal done.
Right.
Are you kidding me?
We know that they've been wanting to add to that.
Are you kidding me?
I would think that the Steelers would at least be interested. I would think that a team like the Lions might be interested.
You get
Could you imagine Tim Patrick going back with Russ? He's like, are you effing kidding me?
Although he didn't really get to play with Russ.
He didn't.
No.
But he probably had to deal with his Pinterest board mouth.
Yeah, he had
in the
to sit in the
room.
receiver room every day and watch that bullshit.
But maybe Detroit. I think Detroit still needs some veteran receiver help, especially after losing Josh Reynolds.
Right. I was going to say Josh Reynolds.
So I think that this, just like Samaje Perine, I mean, you have to do two things. You have to process Tim Patrick.
No longer being a Bronco. Too, they don't really have anybody do that.
I can't handle any more breaking news today.
Not a vet like that after moving on from Mike Wynn. But so, because they have Lad McConkey, they've got all these young kids. But do you want to make, I mean, you'll trade in the division and it's end of the roster guy. But
it's also like, what team is going to take a chance on Tim Patrick at this point after being out for 2 years and then getting cut? You know what I'm saying?
No. All I need to hear right now is that he is going to go somewhere great, and they're going to love him, and he's going to be a star. And I can't think about the potential.
He's not costing you anything right now because of the rework deal. So even if you have to bring him
in right before season starts with guys that and playing in front of guys that you've been working with for the last 4 months, it's just kind of hard to bring a guy in right before the season who you don't really like.
I guess we'll find out.
To plug in.
It just feels like when I say do right by him, they were constructing the roster the way they wanted to. So by getting out there today, he can either hit the street and get a jump up on hitting the street, or somebody can call real quick and say, no, we'll give you a 7th for Tim Patrick. Come on.
He was one of those guys who didn't suit up yesterday. He was super excited for his. I was down there on the sideline as the uniform inspector, and
Inspector Gadget.
Inspector reporting for duty. I have my NFL hat and everything. It's really weird. The guys are looking at me like, "You motherfucker! You're
supposed to be on our side now." You're like,
sorry, not anymore, guys. I got a job to do.
So you're not like the cool sub that comes in.
I am trying to be like that guy.
You are not
cool, man.
They show their little knee skin, and you're like, "Dunzo."
No, they have a couple chances to fix it. Because you give them
you give them like a look, like
no, you give it to them a sheet in pregame, not them, but the equipment manager.
Okay,
and then he tells them in right before they come out for the regular for the game. Look, pull your socks up, whatever. And then even at halftime, I give them another sheet. What if
you just get loose socks?
They give you the same socks.
Oh. You haven't had it yet. Yeah, it's like your spitters on you that just slide down. Oh
my gosh,
Von Miller was maybe the king of this, of having fun custom cleats in pregame.
Yeah.
But I feel like he had that.
Change them.
But he would have that in like the early pregame. I don't know if he even had that in the team warm up.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you haven't had that yet. But I wonder if you have guys that'll still wear those cleats in the pregame just because there's more eyeballs.
Ding them, and then
you ding them, but it's obviously not a penalty until the game starts, right? So.
But Tim was out there, in shorts, cheering on his buddies, like getting super excited for the receivers who were catching passes. And it just goes to show, like, the preseason good, like the feel good moments, you got to be careful with those. The things that you think are locks because you see a guy have this thing happen, you got to be careful because anything can happen. And clearly Sean Payton has a vision, and that vision doesn't involve Tim Patrick anymore. I know.
Just like Jarrett Stidham, we're going to end on a
negative Nancy note.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's crazy. Breaking news right here live on Off Field with the reactions and all the things.
We got to get like the breaking news, like thing.
Yeah, so this is now getting put out there a couple minutes ago that the Broncos are trying to trade Samaje. We know. I mean, that's why they're putting these names out there so that teams will call them and offer them 6th and 7th rounders.
Yeah.
Well, Tim, I'm wishing you nothing but the best, Mr. Timothy, and much love to you. I love you, Timothy. Timothy. I love you, Timothy. Oh, I'm so sad, but that's okay. Guys, listen, we have a lot more developments, I'm sure, to come before Friday when we have another show. Like I said, 2 p.m. Mountain Time, same place, talking all things Denver Broncos. And then one more week until the
real
madness.
shebang.
So we'll probably preview week 1.
We should, because you got a
week.
Thursday game, you got a Friday game.
Yep, we'll preview week
Brazil.
1 across the whole board. It won't just be
Thursday,
Broncos.
Chiefs, Ravens.
Yeah, we've got a lot of games to talk about. Ooh,
Eagles,
Chiefs, Ravens is
Packers,
going to be lit.
Eagles, Packers in Sao Paulo, Brazil, Friday.
What?
Whoop, whoop. So yeah, we'll have lots to talk about. We won't just talk about
And
the Denver Broncos on this show. We'll talk about
Nebraska.
everything. And we'll be back again Friday to talk over the developments that are the Denver Broncos. Sean Payton.
And react to the Buffs opener. Might as well touch on it. They host North Dakota State on Thursday.
Night.
And you got CSU and Austin against number 4 Texas.
Freaking A.
Yeah, I will let the boys take that conversation because
Who's TCU have in the opener?
Don't care about the Buffs at all.
Who does TCU have in the opener?
Don't know. Haven't checked.
Go Horned
Ever
Frogs.
since the TCU run that was the national championship, which was a beautiful
Why can't they have another one? My man Sonny Dykes.
Sonny Dykes is great, but I just, I haven't tapped into college football. My brain, when it comes to sports betting, I have to know all the teams, all the players for the NFL and the NBA. If I tried to throw college football in there, I'd probably go bonkers.
Your Horned Frogs are 9.5-point favorites in your backyard at Palo Alto playing the Stanford Cardinal.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Look at that.
Put your
How far
frogs
Stanford
up.
from where you grew up?
About 30 minutes. But Menlo College, where I went to school, is like 5 minutes away from Stanford. It's right down the street.
So really, your backyard?
Right down the street.
You're going to go to those games like, why am I not playing here? These guys suck. I'm going to be in the NFL for almost a decade.
Yeah.
I keep giving him more years. He
The
likes
day before the
he adds on a year each
I keep
show.
giving he's now close to a decade.
played, I played 12 years in the NFL.
There you
Let's
go.
round up. My dad would do that. My dad would do that. Like I'd be 16. He'd be like, you're almost 20. I'm like, what? No, I'm not.
Sorry.
Like,
Beg your
I
pardon.
just got my driver's
Go buy
license
me a
last week.
beer.
Yeah.
All right, you guys, thank you so much for being here, joining us for another Guerrilla Sports Off Field. We'll be back again on Friday, 2 p.m. Mountain Time with myself, Liv Moods, Nate Jackson, and DK. We'll be back to talk all things Denver Broncos and week 1 in the NFL. It's around the corner. Get excited. Relax with your bow. Nurse. And we'll be back again Friday. Thanks for being here. Much love, and let's go Broncos.
Sweet.
Bye.